to survive. We're like wild dogs in the wilderness.
Hey, what's going on out there, everybody? It's April 15th, 2016, 2:52 a.m. And before I get started, I kind of had a couple of ideas just floating around, like on my cell phone. I downloaded this app at work and was like, okay, I'm going to try this out and see how it goes. But so I've got these a couple ideas down, but it was more of like a situation where I was going to go in and audio edit shit and be like, look at me, I record shit at work while I'm at work, and I can go home and, audio edit all that shit. But to be perfectly honest, I don't feel like doing all the file uploading, transferring of files, editing of files. So I'm just going to straight up just play what I've got. It's only maybe 9 minutes of shit, but then I'll jump right into the regular ass podcast.
Hey, how's it going out there? So I'm trying a few different ideas with this podcast thing. Sometimes on my job I think of some good ideas, or at least what I think are good ideas anyway. And so I figured, okay, I'm going to try downloading this voice recorder to see if maybe I can get some of these ideas down while they're still fresh. I don't lose anything, and then I can just upload them onto the podcast later via the magic of audio editing, right? So anyway, here I am at my job. I'm kind of just doing a little bit of a 30-minute break or whatnot. And one of the things that kind of caught my eye is as I'm cleaning office buildings, I noticed there's all kinds of family pictures. Right now I'm looking at somebody's picture of their child, and there's 6 to 10 different pictures of this just one child. And it's okay, I don't know. I'm not going to say too much on that, but 6 to 10 pictures of your one child is maybe a little overkill. I know it's a relatively fresh baby. Babies are always fresh. They're, always doing something new and interesting. And if you're a new parent, you're like, oh my god, the wonders of parenthood, as you're slurping on your own dick. But, one thing I noticed in a lot of these offices, because, a lot of these offices are lawyers' buildings, or people that work for lawyers, assistants or whatnot. And I noticed there's a shit ton of pictures around these lawyers' offices where it's maybe 1 or 2 of these pencil neck fucking dicks sitting around, and then they're flanked by between 4 to 6 women. Oftentimes there might be 2 dudes in the picture, so it's not just the one cheesy dude fucking look at me and all these fucking chicks. But it's still just as bad if you get your bro in on the picture and it's oh, look at us and all these chicks. We're not sleazy because there's 2 of us in the picture, 2 for me and 2 for him, or whatever the numbers are. But I don't know, I think it's just as sleazy, because it's you see these pencil neck dicks, and they're fucking, you could tell they were the Melvins in fucking school, and that they got where they're at because they worked hard, they put the time in a college, and that's all there is to it. But because they're making decent money, they have a respectable career, and let's be honest, these are probably the chicks from the office, that they work with, all the assistants who take notes for them, do their scheduling or whatever the fuck. But yeah, you see them sitting around with these chicks, and you're like, you're such a fucking a pussy hound, and not even in a good way, to the point where it makes me feel there's something wrong with me. Not because these guys are taking pictures with chicks, but just because it seems a lot of dudes are all fucking pussy hounds. But it's more of how I describe it. Well, I guess that's how I would describe it. But it's even funnier when you see former nerds now oh my god, fucking women, I'm gonna put them on a fucking pedestal, they're so great, and my life would be nothing without them, and maybe I'll get to bang Maria, the secretary, if I play my cards right. You can just see them just fucking oozing insecurity and all that shit with their fake dork smile. All they're missing is the horn rim glasses with the strip of tape down the middle holding that shit together. And then they've got these relatively attractive women with them, so it's like, I understand you're excited about that, but to me, chicks are just, you know, I mean, well, and they should be to everybody else as well. I don't think I'm unique in this, but to me, chicks are just other fucking people, you know. If I see a chick at a bar, in, like, let's say I was going to school, in a classroom, any sort of environment, I treat them as if I would treat another dude, which is generally pretty hostile, I guess, but, you know, I mean, unless you're coming up to me and you're friendly, you've got some conversation, you know, you're not just going to talk about yourself, I generally don't take interest in anybody, and especially, like, when women do that whole thing, like, oh, hey, how's it going? And then they find some way within 5 minutes of talking to you to make the entire conversation about themselves and entirely about themselves. You know, I mean, I don't give a shit about those kind of people. But it's hilarious that these fucking dorks don't get it. And they've got decent jobs, and, you know, probably by the time they get married, they're gonna find some chick who's gonna fucking step on their nuts with a fucking spiked stiletto. And you know, that's it. They handed their dick in, you know? Just like your gun and your badge at the fucking police station. Anyway, moving on from lawyers and group pics with chicks. Chicks with dicks. Fucking... I got to thinking about tattoos, because I don't have any yet myself. I've thought about it before, but I noticed that the professional atmosphere and attitude towards tattoos has drastically changed, at least here in Seattle. I don't know about other parts of the country, but that's what I'm hearing as well, just listening to other people's podcasts, like Mark Maron or Bill Burr, you know, shit like that, you know. But anyway, it's interesting that, you know, a lot of these people get, like, shit tons of tattoos, and it's all right, I guess, when it means something. Like, I saw a documentary where they were doing, like, something in Chicago, and this guy had a tattoo. It was a rap documentary of, like, what's going on currently, and some guy had, like, a tattoo of Pac-Man on his neck, and underneath it said R.I.P. Pac-Man. And so, you know, it made perfect sense that, okay, his friend who went by Pac-Man got gunned down, and so it seems very appropriate to get a tattoo of, like, a dead friend or something like that. That's actual expression. But so often do I see people who get, like, full sleeves, all kinds of shit like that, and generally it means absolutely nothing. Like, what are you expressing with a koi pond, a sleeve of a koi pond? What are you expressing, you know, when you get, like, an owl on your fucking chest, you know? Like, are you just expressing the fact that you have, like, small tits and you're trying to get people to look at them? I mean, that's what it comes off to me like, anyway. I don't know. Generally, it just seems like tattoos aren't so much about expression as they are about vanity. When I was talking about getting a tattoo myself, I put a lot of thought into it, but it was like one of those things where it's like, okay, I saw, like, a family member of mine, like, a few generations back had a mill, and so he would produce, like, wheat and stuff like that, and so for years and years and years, like, people who had, within the family of mine, who had these old bags of flour that never got filled with flour, they framed them, hung them up in their special spots just to be reminded that, like, oh yeah, you know, your pappy's dad had had a mill and he made flour and stuff like that, and, you know, before he got really into coal mining or whatever. But so I thought about, like, getting that tattooed on my back, or somewhere, you know, that I thought would be appropriate. I guess it was, like, too detailed. They were talking about it was going to be, like, a really intense session or something like that. I'm like, fuck, okay. But to me, that's like, okay, that's actually, like, expressing, like, okay, there's a point and a purpose behind it. But if you're just getting, like, you know, Ed Hardy tattoos or you know, Sailor Jerry tattoos, just to make your body look a little bit more interesting, you're not really expressing anything. You're just saying, well, I guess what you're expressing is your insecurity. You're like, hey, look at me. I need attention. I need you to look at my tattoo so we can start a conversation about tattoos and jerk each other off about it. But, I mean, okay, if you want to join a culture or something like that, I don't know. Pick up a fucking book. Learn how to play a guitar. I don't know. I mean, don't just fill your body up with ink just because, you know, you thought that Abraham Lincoln quote was really good or whatever. Like, I had a buddy who got, like, some tattoos of, like, ripped script and, you know, written words on, like, a piece of paper or whatever, and it's like, why did you do that? You don't give a shit about those fucking words. You basically just Googled what's a really good long-ass quote and decided, okay, that's good enough. That applies to whatever my philosophy is on life. It's not like you actually read a fucking book and were like, oh, man, that is such a great message. You basically looked for an excuse to get a fucking tattoo, found an excuse to get a tattoo, and then did it. You're not expressing anything. Go fuck yourself.
All right, so that was that for the low-quality audio stuff off of my phone. I had a couple good rants in me, I guess, at work, but I had to get them out anyway. So, I guess, like always, my whole process is, like, I make a list of, like, things that I may or may not want to rant and rave about, and I just go through the list. So, like always, I'm just gonna go off the list here. I don't really have, like, a theme in mind, per se, but see where I go with this. So, all right. I think it was like Monday or Tuesday night, there was a pretty cool happening. This doesn't happen often anywhere, let alone even in my neighborhood, where it's like, you know, somebody who just moved here recently is like, man, like there's always something interesting going on, like, you know, maybe not literally every day, but it's like they moved here from Lake Stevens. So they're like, comparatively, it's a huge transition from nothing going on, everything shuts down at like 8 p.m., I'm guessing, you know, like all smaller towns, you know, everything shuts down at about 8 p.m. and the only thing that's open until about 2 a.m. is a fucking bar. And so it's like you either get shit-faced, you're, you know, going to sleep and getting ready for, you know, your blue-collar job the next day. But there was an impromptu concert outside of my apartment building here. Everybody that lives on Summit Avenue knows about it, I guess, more or less. I can't really say what the first act was about. It was kind of like an electronic sort of thing where the guy was, you know, it sounded like he was singing some heartfelt lyrics, but I couldn't really understand what he was saying because it was like the kind of style where it's like, with like a lot of echo and delay. It's like, oh, and you're like, you know, I mean, they were definitely saying something, but I have no clue what they were fucking saying. So I'm like, okay, I check it out for like about 5, 10, 15 minutes, however long I stood out there, and it's like, okay, this is cool. I'm glad there's something going on. I'm glad this guy's doing it. I even got to see the cops roll up, you know, they creep up 5 miles an hour and talk to whoever's running the show. I guess it was like this, I'd say she was an attractive hipster chick, but she's like, okay, well, we did a gentleman handshake, which I thought was kind of funny, you know, like I wouldn't have expected her to say gentleman handshake, you know, but whatever. You know, I mean, just because, like, you know, most chicks these days are, like, feminists, so they were like, yeah, we just, you know, shaked on it and fucking whatever. But anyway, you know, whatever. She said what she said, and it's not even that big of a fucking deal. I'm glad somebody just said that, you know, whatever. They shook on it, so they were going to be done by 10:30 for the concert. So I'm like, okay, cool. Went back in the apartment, and then I started hearing like some feedback and some guitars, and I'm like, okay, this is more my speed. Another 5-10 minutes passes by. I'm starting to hear some decent music, and I'm like, all right, this is fucking what's up. I get out there, and it is like borderline homoerotic, but in an awesome way, I guess. Like all these dudes, like it was like a 4-piece, maybe 5-piece band. Some of them wearing like tighty whities, I think, and like combat boots and like chains, and some of them had like what are those luchador masks on, and like there was like two dudes on a drum set. So like one guy was playing the toms and the other guy was playing the bass drum, the snare, and the hi-hat or some shit like that. And then, you had like a guitar player and a singer. And I don't know what the fuck was going on. It was like one of those shows where like it just hits you and you're like, I have no idea what's going on, but this is awesome at the same time. Because out of nowhere, like, like when there's no lyrical action going on, the singer and some other dude were like doubling up, like they're both doing push-ups, like, and you're just hearing the chains hit the concrete as they're doing the song, and they're doing push-ups. And just to clarify, these aren't like buff dudes or whatever. They're all like, I would say husky or like my body style, which, like, I mean, fat, whatever, I don't give a fuck. Anyway, and so it was hilarious watching these out of shape guys doing fucking push-ups in chains and tighty whities and fucking combat boots and luchador masks. And I don't know, like, I don't even know what this fucking band's name was, but I was having such an awesome time watching that shit. It was more of like, I guess, what do you call it? Like the X factor, as in like they're putting themselves out there, they're being fucking brave. Who the fuck knows? I don't know. Whatever. It was awesome. Anyway, so that was kind of like a highlight of the week. Sure enough, as soon as 10:30 hits, the show's over. Last song, that band grabs what's left of their, like, I don't know why they had Coors Light, but whatever, fuck it. They grabbed what's left of their pack of Coors Light. It was like an 18 rack or whatever, and they just spill it all over the street, and everybody like stands around for a second, like, did they just do that? And then people start diving for them. Some of them are busted open on the concrete, whatever. People grab those too, but it was just weird. Like, I was like, okay, I know these guys have something when you spill an 18 rack of, or I'm sorry, what's left of an 18 rack of beer, and the crowd looks at you like, did you just do that? And then they're like, oh shit, grab the beers. I don't know. I think that's the mark of a good band. There's something there. Anyway, I guess this kind of ties into it. The next topic that I'm about to talk to is like, okay, so the weather is getting nice in Seattle, and that's a great thing. I mean, I love it. It's going to be, I don't think it's going to be as hot as last year, but maybe it will be. I mean, fuck, maybe it's going to be hotter. I don't know. I'm not feeling it yet anyway. But I know as it gets hot in Seattle, or warm or sunny or whatever you want to call it, people start getting a little funny. You start seeing all the homeless people coming from Portland, California, who the fuck knows where. They just come out of the woodwork. And then you've also got people coming to check out the city from out of town, or, they just moved here because that's the time of year where people move, and they got some killer ass job at Amazon or whatever the fuck. But yeah, I mean, it just gets funny because you run into all these personality clashes. You're more likely to see dudes fucking puffing out their chest and being like, what bro, fucking, you want to go? Why you staring at my woman, bro? And it's like, okay, I mean, it doesn't matter what time of the year it is. I mean, I might be a little more well adjusted than other times of the years, I guess what I'm saying, but it's not like I'm fucking about ready to scrap and brawl with somebody. Although, I mean, maybe it does happen and I just don't consciously know it. Maybe my lizard brain activates, or whatever that shit is called. But yeah, mark my words, as it gets to be hotter and sunnier out there, it's gonna, people are definitely gonna be fucking sweating and stinking and fucking getting funny with each other as their hormones are fucking kicking in. I think on my last podcast I mentioned I had to buy some new sneakers because they were beat to shit. Loving them. End of story. Anyway, let's see. For some reason the other day I thought about this while I was doing my job. Remember that movie Bend It Like Beckham? I can't even remember what that movie was about, so I'm gonna IMDb that shit real quick just to say I'm doing it justice by being honest or whatever. imdb.com. Alright, so it's a 2002 movie. Had Keira Knightley in it, and who else? Parminder Nagra, don't know who he is. Jonathan Rhys-Meyers, some people I probably know. Anyway, point is, the daughter of Orthodox Sikh rebels against her... What? The daughter of Orthodox Sikh rebels against oh. That's America for you. You're like, instead of rebels, you're like, you see the word Sikh and rebels or rebels, and you're like, oh, it's gotta be rebels. Oh, fuck. The daughter of Orthodox Sikh rebels against her parents' traditionalism and joins a football team. Soccer in America. No shit. That's kind of the premise they give you, but let's see here. I'd never watched the fucking movie. I have no idea why I thought about the movie. I think I was just like, doing like English accents in my head, like, oh, bend it like Beckham, and fucking, I was just like, oh, okay, that's more than likely how it came into my head. But then that got me to thinking about fucking David Beckham himself, and I thought about it. I was like, for as much as I bitch about how people idolize sports stars and all that shit, he is the perfect example, I think, of a sports star who's had, global fucking fame and, that rise to success and then the fucking fall. Let's see here. Everybody knew who he fucking was. I was gonna go on to say, like, he had it all, he retired, and then fucking shit went wayside, because I remember he married fucking Posh Spice or whatever the fuck. I guess they're on the rocks, or maybe they're separated, because it says married 1999 on Wiki here, but it doesn't say they ever divorced. But I distinctly remember there being like this whole deal, like I thought he was philandering is the whole story, and then Victoria Beckham's like, we're done, or some shit like that. Obviously it's across the pond, so we don't get all their news and all that shit, but I guess that kind of kills my point that I was going to make. But I don't know, I guess to elaborate further on okay, moving away from David Beckham, sports stars are an interesting thing, because it's like, okay, I understand the appeal, especially in like American football, where it's like, okay, you can be a young black youth, or basketball. I mean, let's be honest. You can be a young black youth and, come from nothing and become, like Kobe Bryant or LeBron James, and, you just got to work hard and want it and all that shit. But it's like, okay, realistically, only so many people make it to sports stardom like that, and to even be fucking Kobe or to be LeBron is even rarer. So it just astounds me when I used to want to play sports. I like baseball. That's my sport. I know it's fucking boring. I know everybody hates on it, but I used to want to fucking play baseball. But I realized, being a professional baseball player's kind of rare, and it also kind of takes the fun out of the game. And all that shit. And I don't know, I just never followed up with it. I still like playing the game. I still like, I played catcher, make all those catcher jokes you want to, pitcher and catcher, LOL. But I liked playing catcher because that's where all the action was at. If you're not the pitcher, you can snipe that guy off, stealing second base or whatever. I liked playing that position. Again, keep making all those jokes you want to. But anyways, but it's like one of those things where it's like, I understood that, it's very unlikely that I'm ever going to have a Nike deal. Whereas, like, my whole approach to it was realistic. Enjoy playing it, do it for fun, whatever, that sort of thing. But I remember, all those kids that, played on, the football or the basketball team. Some of them really took that shit to heart, and they're like, oh, I'm going to be a pro someday, and still haven't fucking heard of them. The only person from school that I've ever heard of anything, like, as far as, like, oh, man, that person's kind of famous now, is fucking, Mary Lambert. She was, like, a couple grades younger than I was. And even then, I think she's talented, but I think it was more of the fact that she was featured on a Macklemore song. I'm sure she's selling records. I know she's done South by Southwest and all that shit, but, it's just, and I know I'm probably going to get fucking lynched for saying that, but I don't know, it's just, her music was never my bag in high school or currently. But, props to her for doing what it is. Anyway, back to my main point, which was fucking sports stardom is interesting in that, you remember those guys from high school, like, I'm going to be a fucking pro, never heard of them, and then, they didn't take the time to prepare themselves for real life. They didn't, I didn't go to college, really, and, I didn't get a 4.0 or any of that shit, but, it's like one of those things where it's like, I kind of knew that I wasn't going to be doing that shit anyway. Whereas these guys, like, especially in more sensitive communities where it's like you need a little bit more of an uplifting, like, this kind of feels like a hypocritical thing to say because black women have like really good careers statistically, they work really hard statistically, but like young black males, I think, are the thing that I'm talking about here, and that's, they don't prepare themselves for, any sort of future unless they've got like a good family structure or that stuff. So of course they naturally look to, basketball or football. And I'm not saying everybody in that, what do you call it, racial makeup does this, but, it's just like one of those things where it's like, don't sell yourself the dream too hard on sports, whether you're black, white, Asian, Hispanic, whatever, because, yeah, it's great to play sports, but honestly, fucking, your chances are slim, and if you don't think you're as good as everybody else, kind of figure that out right away, and just say, okay, I'm doing this for fun, but I should really prepare myself for a better future. Now, of course, like I said, I'm kind of hypocritical in that sense because I just knew I wasn't really interested in college, and I knew I wasn't really interested in being graded academically. My impression of learning was always, I could always go up to my grandfather and ask him a question, and he would drop knowledge on me. And to me, that was like, okay, that's what is that, like Plato or Homer? That's one of like the classical methods of teacher-student, like thousands of years ago, back in Roman days or whatever. But compared to like, okay, we're gonna test you, we're gonna quiz you, we're gonna school you. You got to be here for 8 hours a day, and then on top of that, you got to do another like 4 to 6 hours of homework when you're in high school or college. It's like, man, you don't have any fucking time to eat, sleep, or do anything, if you intend to get a 4.0 or whatever, let alone like when I was in art school, I was trying to fucking juggle that and a job, and it's like I wasn't really getting any well, that's a longer story. I'll skip that, but point is, I had to juggle a job and school at the same time, and it was a fucking bitch. So I realize I'm preaching from a soapbox, but it's like one of those things where, I don't know, man, just, I don't like the concept that people fucking worship sports stars like that, and then, it's like breeding people at the stupid farm. I don't know, in my opinion. I'm not the smartest person in the world, but fucking it really does feel like breeding people at the stupid farm. Does that make sense? I don't fucking know. I guess what I was gonna say though is like, okay, so like once your sports fame is over, you end up being like somebody like Howie Long doing endless commercial spots or talking on ESPN, or it's like, okay, once you're done with sports, you're not really done with sports. Of course, if you're Howie Long, they're going to always ask you, what your opinion is on the sport because you're on fucking ESPN, or Terry Bradshaw, or that kind of shit. But, it's like, you're always going to be known as a sports guy. You're never going to, essentially a meathead, even though you may be a smart guy. I don't know. It's just one of those things where it just doesn't have any appeal to me, and it's amazing to me that people see it as something that they want to be, that they once they're done being a professional athlete, if they even make it there, that they're going to be on fucking Sports Center talking about sports all the time. That's great if you make it there. I don't know. Moving on, I guess. I was thinking about, I've got to pay my taxes here in a few days. That's right, I pay taxes. I don't get a refund because I keep every dollar that I earn that isn't like Medicare or Washington state tax or whatever else. But yeah, so I don't get a refund. I have to pay taxes. So I'm in this weird jam where I didn't have health insurance the entire year, and so maybe I'll end up paying between $200, which is the ideal, or $400 for not having enough insurance the entire year. But either way, I'm kind of short on cash right now because I was telling you I bought that shotgun. Good idea, bad idea, I know, but so I'm kind of short on cash. I'm just about maxed out on my credit card, and I'm trying to make it work. So it's like, okay, I bought enough food essentials where like $40 of food. Hopefully that'll get me through like this week, and then I'll go grocery shopping again this weekend. Another $40 that'll make me through this week. And so long as I manage my money smartly, I should be able to, with this next paycheck after, like, not this Friday, but the Friday after that, I should be able to make shit work again, I hope. That's the idea anyway. But, I mean, it's like one of those things where it's like, in my case, it's just negligence, but there's a lot of people in my generation that literally are living paycheck to paycheck. And, you can blame that on the fact that they didn't go to college and, get a fucking good-ass job or whatever. Or, I'm not going to blame it on, the minimum wage. I mean, I think the minimum wage should be higher than what it is nationally, but that's a whole nother thing. But yeah, there's just a lot of people in this country right now that are just living paycheck to paycheck, and there's got to be some way we can fix that, or or there's got to be some kind of national movement where people just realize that they don't have to spend every fucking dollar that they earn. I know people very close to me that as soon as they get that paycheck, they just go ham on shit. They don't even know how to cook for themselves, or they don't know how to do this or that for themselves. And so I mean, food is one of those things, especially where people fuck themselves up, myself included, especially. But people who don't know how to cook for themselves, they'll go out, they'll spend $10, $15, maybe $20 on a meal because they don't know how to cook for themselves. And once you do the math, that's $30 a day. That's, let's see, that's $210 a week. That's a huge amount of money when you add it up. Whereas, like I was just talking about maybe like 5 minutes ago, I spent $40 on groceries this week, a little bit more for like some booze, and some gas and some shit like that, but essentially more or less, and I'm making it last pretty fucking good, just for like 1 week, and I'm, I got some pizza, I got some fried rice and some chicken, I got, beef franks that are hella bomb, I got fucking french fries, I got shit I can eat and enjoy, and it's not like horrible for me, salad, but, and that's pretty damn good for like $40, but, like I said, some people are like, my old roommate fucking, I'm picky, so fucking never cooked for himself. He's always got and it's like one of those things where it's like, okay, well, if you're picky, then why the fuck do you go out to eat? Because you're taking the chance on you're not enjoying the food, or you're just picky about your own fucking cooking because you suck at it and you know what the fuck you're doing. You've got like your 1 or 2 or 3 dishes that you know how to fucking make, and that's all you know. And of course you're going to be picky. Or whatever, I mean, people who claim they're picky are just fucking just lazy in my book. I mean, it's all right to be like, I mean, like, I don't like fish. I guess that's my picky, but if you're using picky as a crutch to just fucking be lazy, I don't know, then go fuck yourself. I say that a lot, then go fuck yourself. That's like my conclusion for everything, but I don't understand how fucking people do that, If you know you're spending, if you're horrible with money, then why not try to be better at it? Well, I'm trying, but you're not really fucking trying. Anyway, that's the problem with my generation, myself included, fuck. I already talked about fucking tattoos. I guess I mentioned the booze thing earlier. it's been getting to the point where it's like, okay, I tell myself I'm not gonna drink today or that sort of thing, but I still find myself like sometimes going like, fuck it, whatever. I'm gonna buy a beer or I'm gonna buy a bottle of something. And lately I've been doing a gin just because whatever. I guess it's like lower in sugar, so if I'm gonna kill myself, at least I'm not making myself like extra heavy now, I guess, or whatever. But I don't know. It's like one of those things getting to the point where it's like I don't want to do AA or whatever, but I do kind of want to like sit on some of those sessions just to see, aside from the Lord Jesus, how fucking people deal with that shit. Like, I was listening to Mark Maron's podcast, and he was talking about like, for him, it was like a series of addictions. I guess he's got an addictive personality or whatever, but like, okay, I'm off drugs and alcohol or whatever, so now I'm filling my time with vinyl records or sugar or, I don't know, you name it. I mean, but I guess that's more or less of the concept. You find your niche and you replace it with, or you replace your addiction with some other addiction. But I don't know, that doesn't settle well with me, because then that means I'm going to end up with like too many guitars or too many guns or and for some people that's really what it is. There was a guy I knew who played guitar, still plays guitar, and gave me some lessons. And, he was talking about how his dad was an alcoholic and how he even was an alcoholic for a good grip. But then he realized like how much money he would save because he wanted to quit. But he realized how much money he would save and how much more guitar equipment he could afford now that he quit drinking. And that was kind of like his excuse or his joke rationale, aside from the obvious, like you're improving the quality of your life. But I don't know. I mean, that replacing one addiction for another just always kind of feels like a cop out. I want to, I don't know, maybe I have an addictive personality, but it's not quite, to me, like someone with an addictive personality is like high energy or manic, at least. And I don't see myself as that, but who knows, maybe, I don't know. I haven't taken that kind of an introspective look, I guess. But yeah, I don't know. I definitely kind of want to sit in on a session or two of like some AA, but every time I think about it, I'm like, yeah, but that sounds really fucking lame, because they're probably gonna try and get me to come every week, and I'm not interested in that. I just want to see if I can maybe get some tips and tricks on like how to cope, because I don't know. I can do things and not do them, but this one's a little bit harder for me than others. Yeah, anyway. I was reading a news article online somewhere where they were talking about how UC Davis scrubbed that pepper spray incident. You remember like all those memes of a cop pepper spraying kids a couple years back? Yeah, it seems like UC Davis, according to the article, spent I don't know, several $100,000 on scrubbing the internet of the incident. Let's see here. There we go. I had to pull up the article, so sorry for the stumble there. But UC Davis spent thousands to scrub pepper spray references from internet. I don't know. Oh yeah, here we go. Here's where I got hundreds of thousands. UC Davis contracted with consultants for at least $175,000 to scrub the internet of negative online postings following the November 2011 pepper spraying of students, and to improve the reputations of both the university and Chancellor Linda P. Katehi, newly released documents show. The payments were made as the university was trying to boost its image online and were among several contracts issued following the pepper spray incident. Some payments were made in hopes of improving the results computer users obtained when searching for information about the university or Katehi, results that one consultant labeled venomous rhetoric about UC Davis and the chancellor. Others sought to improve the school's use of social media and devise a new plan for the UC Davis Strategic Communications Office, which has seen its budget rise substantially since Katehi took the chancellor's post in 2009. But I don't know. It's just like, okay, how can you believe anything that you read on the internet anymore? Oh, God, fuck. I hate it when, you're reading a news article and all of a sudden you get a fucking commercial out of nowhere that's just hella loud. That's what the fuck that was. Anyway, but how can you believe anything on the internet anymore when, you can easily pay hundreds of thousands of dollars to alter your reputation? Obviously I couldn't afford that. So average Joes like you, me, we have to basically just mind our P's and Q's about the internet and stay off the internet as best as possible. But if you're some big-ass mega corporation like Goldman Sachs, you could easily change your reputation online because they've got the money to do that. And they've also got a bad reputation still from that financial disaster. If I remember right, just recently, they had some issue come up where they didn't come up with a good enough plan in case there was another financial disaster. Them and like 4 other companies, I guess, didn't have a good enough backup plan in case the system failed. So, you could easily just throw money at shit and change public opinion. It's aggravating that a college can do that. And in some way, doesn't that also admit guilt? Like, I don't know. I don't remember the situation exactly, what was up with UC Davis. But I do remember the pepper spray incident. I don't know if it was necessarily their call for that cop to start pepper spraying kids. Because, I mean, that's pretty fucked up if that was their call. But more of like, okay, that almost kind of suggests that they did make that call. I don't know. If you're listening out there and you can kind of fill me in or whatever, because I'm too lazy to fucking Google it right now. I guess I'm kind of cherry picking my facts here, but point is, I don't know, that shit's aggravating that you can fucking do that. And it almost admits guilt. Take a little sip of gin here. I'm almost done with Fallout 4. I pretty much bought it almost maybe a week or 2 after the game came out on my computer, and my computer graphics card isn't up to snuff. So basically, I'm playing the game in halftime because it's just so laggy. It's just barely playable, but like the average gamer nerd be like, "Oh no, bro, I can't fucking play this game." But for me, it's like, okay, this is just barely playable most of the time, and then there's like these little spurts where like the graphics card is just butter. I don't know how the fuck that happens, but Anyway, so I'm playing Fallout 4. I'm almost done with the game. I basically am like at the final couple of missions, and I'm just putting off running through them because I'd want to, like, I've done stuff like collect bobbleheads. Like, I've got all the bobbleheads collected, yada yada yada, whatever. I've got more money in that game that I know what to do with, just like Fallout 3 and New Vegas before it. I'm just fucking sitting on like almost 40,000 caps. I've got more like equipment that I could sell. I've got like so much shit going on in that fucking game. It's great. I love it, but I'm starting to hit that threshold where it's like, okay, there's I can pretty much do whatever I want in this game at this point, and aside from run the final missions. I rarely have ever used power armor in that game too. Like I've mostly done that game non-armor. I didn't run it on the hardest setting, so I'm not like bragging too hard, but I've got more fusion cores than I know what to do with, which if you play the game, you know what I'm talking about. But anyway, that got me thinking. I'm like, okay, like I've put in like nearly 400 hours on this game, according to Steam or whatever, and I did the math. That's like 2 or 3 weeks of my actual life that I'm never gonna get back. But got me to thinking about, like, some of those like kids that are like super geniuses at like age 7 or like 12 or whatever the fuck, and how like almost every fucking time, like, well, this kid's a normal kid, he loves pizza and he fucking likes to do normal kid stuff, but wait, he doesn't like playing video games. What parent wouldn't love this kid? And you're like, fuck you, like, first of all, for attacking video games, because the facts are coming out more and more, like, it improves hand-eye coordination, and some of your what do you call that, cognitive decision making. Like, you can easily make quick decisions faster sometimes based on what kind of games you play and all that shit, and the accuracy in the decisions that you make, because that's often what video games do. They make you make split second decisions, and you're like, okay, I gotta do this. It doesn't always work, but at least you kind of learn through like a trial and error process. I had a girlfriend that was always giving me shit like, oh, fucking, you're playing video games, because I was playing like GTA. I think it was like San Andreas on my laptop back then. Oh, you're always fucking playing video games and not paying attention to me. I mean, that was my mistake for not paying attention to her, but she was giving me shit about video games and trying to turn me on to things like Lumosity and stuff like that. And everyone that I've talked to that's done Lumosity and video games is usually like, yeah, Lumosity is bullshit. Fucking, and they're just right back to playing video games. And honestly, that was my experience too. It's like, yeah, I mean, you're playing games to test things like your memory, like there were unique things that you couldn't get in most video games on Lumosity, but it was just like one of those things where it's like, all these games fucking suck. Even if it is like testing your memory. I mean, I could just play Guess Who and be like, getting some of the same cognitive tests going on. I could rent a puzzle book, or I mean, not rent a puzzle book, buy like one of those like magazine stand puzzle books and get my brain candy that way. But Lumosity just sucked. But anyway, so like all these kids that are super genius saying like video games are a waste of time, I just feel like these kids are parroting what they want, or what they think people want to hear from them. Because when you're that age, even if you're a super genius, your mind is still soft, it's moldable. I often think to myself, like, okay, surely this kid's gifted at being smart, but then on top of that, they probably also had like some kick-ass parents behind them, making them bust their ass, learn their multiplication, do their long division, do their, square rooting, all that shit. And, if it weren't for those kick-ass parents, they probably would just be normal-ass kids fucking playing video games just like us. But because they're super geniuses, everybody's like, oh, fucking, we're gonna jerk you off, and we're gonna jerk ourselves off and be like, oh my god, video games, bro, fucking video games suck. It's like, no, they don't. I mean, they are a waste of time. Like, I'm literally never gonna get 3 weeks back of my life, but is it really a waste of your time if you're enjoying doing it? If it's a harmless habit? Like, some people just sit around and watch Netflix all day. Whatever, I mean, I do that too, but I also fucking like to play video games. So, I don't really see it as a waste of time. Like, anything you do is a waste of time if it's not literally productive. If you're not literally, like, discovering the cure for AIDS, or you're not working your 9-to-5 job, was it 16 out of 24 hours a day, anything that you do for that additional 8 hours is a fucking waste of time that you have free to, there was a good poster that I saw somewhere where it's like 8 hours for sleep, 8 hours for work, and 8 hours for what you may, which is I think like a good balance of lifestyle. I mean, but okay, so like if you have like 8 hours of free time, if it's not productive, it's just a waste of fucking time, whether it's video games, whether it's hiking in the mountains. I mean, you're gonna get something from either one, either way. It's just what your experience is about it. So, all you people fucking knocking video games, suck my dick, go fuck yourself. I know that's not the most eloquent way to put it, but, it's a harmless habit. It doesn't make you dumb. It doesn't make you less of a person. So, get off your fucking high horse. Let's see here. Oh, man, I saw this crazy-ass video not too long ago where this guy was testing a gun at the gun range. I'm going to see if I can pull it up here. Where he's testing a gun at the gun range, and I'll be damned if he wasn't literally putting his hand in his, like, one hand in front of the barrel of the pistol, because like he was pulling the trigger on the pistol, but it wasn't quite going off, and he's like, what the fuck, and he's pulling it, and he's doing all kinds of wrong shit. And then he literally puts his hand in front of the barrel of the pistol and is like, what the fuck? Still pulling the trigger. He does this a few times, and then, you know, there's like somebody over his shoulder looking at him, like not even correcting him. Like, okay, first failure is obviously he put his hand in front of the barrel. Second failure is the person over his shoulder who's with him is like, didn't stop him, is like, what the fuck are you doing? And inevitably the guy fucking shoots himself in the fucking hand. I'm gonna see if I can pull up the video here. In the hand. Oh, he was checking the laser at a gun range. That's what it was. What a dipshit. Okay, I didn't have any audio the first time I watched it, but it was like, okay, he's like slightly pulling the trigger just enough for the guided laser to activate. And the guy who's like with him is like, you know, not doing shit about it. You know, and then just by accident, the gun goes off because he was testing the fucking laser. Man, fucking people are stupid sometimes, and they just, you know, other people fucking just let that shit go on. It's wow. Anyways, look it up if you can find it, but it's just like, it's just amazing that people fucking are that stupid with guns. You always treat a gun like it's loaded. You always, and in this case, it was. You don't point anything you don't want to shoot. God, I'm forgetting some of the other rules, but I know them when I'm doing them. You know, it's just like second nature. But God, fucking, that's irritating because it you know, it just furthers the argument, because then you get all those comments in YouTube like, well, see, this is why we don't fucking need guns, because people are fucking stupid. It's like, yeah, no, you're right, but people don't need stupid people don't need guns. So let's just clarify that real quick. Let's see. The UW is going to be hosting a tent city. There's a lot of people saying that's a bad idea, and I would have to agree with them. Not necessarily for the aspect that it's noble in its humanitarianism, but at the same time, with all the crime that goes on in the U district, as far as people breaking into, you know, dorms or some of those like residencies that are intended for college students, you know, stealing stuff. I mean, you're just going to see an even bigger influx of crime in that neighborhood, just because, I mean, let's be honest, a lot of these people that are homeless aren't the most savory of people. I mean, there's don't get me wrong, there's plenty of good people out there, but even like some of the good people hanging out back outside of my apartment, you know, even if it's there's this one guy who's really cool, but like half the time he's really, really high on crystal meth, like really high. And he's cool, but like I said, man, it's just like, you know, that guy's one in a million, and you're not gonna run into people that aren't gonna jack bicycles, or you're not gonna, you know, like it's just a bad idea. While I was scanning, let's see, news headlines, this kind of came up. Country artists condemn lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender laws. I think I said this on the last podcast already, but they were criticizing the music labels for, you know, being silent while the artists are being very vocal. And I think I said this in the last podcast already, but no surprise. Guess what? It's the music industry, their music labels. They've got all kinds of demographics they're trying to shoot for. They're trying to make money. They're not going to fucking step in on that issue. They're not trying to be fucking Bruce Springsteen or Bryan Adams, you know. We're not going to play in, you know, North Carolina or where the fuck, you know, that they're not playing. So, I don't know. Get over it. You know, I don't respect the music industry, and here's another reason why. Let's see. I mean, at least the industry part of it. I respect musicians, but the music industry itself is a bunch of bullshit. Navy Secretary the Navy Secretary was addressing the Marines and said that women in combat is official. It's on, you know. It's an irreversible decision. Well, you know, at least for the moment anyway. It's not like something like where it's like, oh, fucking, I don't want a woman in my platoon. You know, it's like, no, you gotta fucking deal with it. And I think one of the sound bites that came up when they were reporting the news on that was like this Marine going like, "Hey man, if you're a female and you want to take the test to be a Marine, all the power to you. Do it. I urge you to." Just because it's like there's this whole stigma about and I guess it's backed up with some facts. I don't know. I didn't look up these facts, so don't hang me when I regurgitate them. But I guess they're saying that essentially, in short, that women are less effective in combat situations, whether it's because of stamina, endurance, what is it, like the mental stamina required to be in battle. I don't know what the criteria was that they based it on, but they just said that essentially they're less efficient, and that's why you don't see many, if any, ever female Marines. So, but I'm for the idea of it. I mean, I think it's I think it's fair. There's women out there that want to do this stuff. Whatever, let them. I guess speaking on a similar topic, well, not similar, but similar in its addressing feminism or whatever. There's going to be a women-only rideshare company to launch across the country coming soon. Soon, men will be creatures in a zoo. And I say that because it's, what do you call it? Or how do you say it? It's just like, okay, I understand the need for a women's only rideshare sort of situation so they can feel safe. If you've ever been a woman who's survived, like rape, molestation, or whatever, and I wouldn't blame you if you don't trust men, but there's a lot of women who don't trust men, and it may be because they experience those situations, or they just have had a lot of shitty boyfriends, or suffered from physical abuse, or whatever. I get the need for it, but it almost seems ridiculous to me at the same time, because there's all these things that are popping up that are exclusive to women, and just with the atmosphere that is purveying the cultural landscape. Did that make sense? I don't know. Anyways, it just seems like men are constantly being more and more vilified, and it's one of those situations I feel like where it's like there's a lot of douchey dudes out there, don't get me wrong, but a few bad apples ruin the bunch, as they say, or whatever. But there are a lot of douchey dudes out there that don't know how to respect women, and they get rewarded for it, or whether, well, I was about to go down a tangent that probably would have gotten me in a lot of, would have been very polarizing, I guess I would say. But anyway, but I don't know. It's just, yeah, while I acknowledge there's douchey dudes out there, it's becoming nauseous or noxic. Noxic? I don't know. I'm going to look up noxic here. But it's just obnoxious that that there's this culture of like men are fucking the devil, and I'm getting sick of it. There's not really much I can do about it other than just bitch about it. Noxious, I think, is the word I was looking for. Noxious. Yeah. Noxious. Harmful, poisonous, or very unpleasant. Yes, noxious is the word I was looking for. Whatever. It doesn't bother me because I'm not, like, hitting up women or whatever, but, you go out in the world and you get all these lame-ass bitches fucking bitching about lame-ass dudes, or like, I'm tired of all these lame-ass dudes. And it's like, okay, that's cool. So why are you hanging out with lame-ass dudes? Are you so insecure that you have to chase down lame-ass dudes? Like, what the fuck is your problem? And, I mean, that can be like one of those, I boil it down to just people being people, and some people just really suck at being people, and they still put themselves out there. Me, personally, I don't. I realize I suck at being a person, so I don't put myself out there. Fuck it, There's a lot of escapees in Washington State lately. Psychiatric escapes, and an inmate escapes from Kent courtroom. I saw this in the news lately. You know, like those guys that escaped from that psychiatric hospital. One of them, I guess, was like beat somebody to death, and they were still at large when I looked up the headline on it. Man, you know, it's just like Washington State's just not doing it lately. You know, we're cutting funding we cut funding long ass time ago on psychiatric care, and then on top of that, now we got, you know, the wackos escaping out of whatever loony bin we've got left, and you know, I don't know. And then you got some dude that just escapes out of a courtroom in fucking Kent. Like, Kent's not like the greatest city, but you know, you would think for how much they have to deal with crime, there would be a little more professionalism. Like some criminal wouldn't just be able to get out the courthouse. And that's what it is, though. Ballard residents are taking action to clean up the neighborhood. Yeah. You know, I guess Ballard's getting trashed by all these, like I was talking about earlier, all these homeless people out and about. And so rather than, you know, waiting for the city to take charge, because I guess they've been trying to hit the city up. You know, the city's not really doing much about it, I guess. But so people within the neighborhood are taking action and cleaning up. I say more power to them, because it probably wouldn't have gotten fucking taken care of soon enough had they not. And there really needs to be more people out there that have this kind of sense of civic duty. Not because, you know, it's your responsibility, but because, you know, it reflects on you. If you know, like my neighborhood, if I knew how to fucking lay cement, I'd fill all the potholes on this fucking street. But, you know, I don't know what kind of cement to use. I don't know what the fuck I'm doing. So, point being, there's just not enough people out there in the world, or at least in America anyway, that are, you know, civic minded. We're living in a world post Ayn Rand, Atlas Shrugged, where altruism is dead, and, you know, looking out for oneself without, you know, interfering without anybody, or without interfering with anybody else's way of life, is reigning supreme. The problem I have with, you know, Ayn Rand's Atlas Shrugged concept is that, okay, true, while, you know, it's a good idea to, you know, not be entirely altruistic and sacrifice your life for the good of others, you know, entirely. I think there is some merit in it, because it's like, okay, the thing that our generation has lost in the concept of all that is that it's fine to pursue your life and what makes you happy and all that shit, but you can't interfere with other people's happiness, is, you know, in some interviews is what she's gone on to say. And there't a whole lot of people just fucking up other people's lives, whether it's through, you know, you being the employer and underpaying your employees, or, you know, some guy is interested in the same woman you're interested in, so you have to fuck up his life and all that shit. And people these days miss that entire aspect of the concept. They just read the book and are like, yeah, fucking, I'm gonna look out for numero uno, and that's all that fucking matters, right? I don't know. I think there are some merits to altruism, although I realize it is a pretty dead concept as far as, you know, whether or not people are willing to accept it. Let's see here. Filled up about an hour here. Let's see what's going on in Seattle news, if anything. Otherwise, I'm pretty much done with this rant for the day. Bellevue police bust a prolific ID theft ring. Hell yeah. Missing Arlington couples vehicles found in Oso Woods. Doesn't sound good. State probe. Bellevue High football boosters paid athletes tuition. Sounds like it's an illegal activity, although I don't know much about it. Suspect arrested for killing man, disposing body in Everett Swamp. Oh, yeah, that's right. He was like a veteran, and he was a little bit older, but he was homeless. And, you know, sometimes homeless people kill each other, unfortunately. Let's see here. There's nothing really new. I mean, there's just more developments in that John Charlton killing that woman and tossing her body in a Seattle recycling bin somewhere, like 21st and Pine or something like that. So, I guess with that, peace out, bitches.